everyone, Achikah here, and it's Monday, so I have a special base tour here on the channel for you guys. I did say tour because it is one of my bases. This is a year and a half in the making, which is, honestly, it's not even that long of one of my builds. I kind of am a slow builder, as you guys have noticed. I usually only release, like, maybe 2 or 3, sometimes 4 bases of mine on the channel per year. It takes me a while. to to do anything. And it actually took me a while here on the EU side because I was starting from scratch. I created this character specifically to do showcases here for you guys on the EU side. And I had no intention of ever like having an EU character base until the YouTube channel, and I wanted to extend it to you guys since I had access to it. Yeah, I had to start from scratch, which was a very new process, I guess, because I do start from scratch on the US side, you know, like with like an alt or whatever. Like, I'll create a new character specifically for a base and kind of build from that, because I'm a bit odd like that, and I put a lot of lore and story behind a lot of my bases that go with characters. But I also have resources from my other characters. I've been playing since launch on PS3, like since pre-order like days. I still have my disc and everything. So I have quite a few resources that I could like share with those ults. But on the EU side, I had to start from scratch. So shout out to all my first-time decorators. It is not easy, and it definitely takes a while, but you know, we'll get there though, you know what I mean? And like I said, I'm very excited to share this with you today. I finished this base actually at the beginning of October. I wasn't sure when I was going to feature it on the channel. I thought about premiering it on Halloween because it does have some witchy aspects to it. So it would have been like a fun little Thursday showcasing. However, when I saw that the devs were going to be doing base tours for their Extra Life Games Day stream, which is really, really cool, I said I think I'd like to premiere it there, and then maybe the day or the Monday after it would pop up on the channel. So that's what I did. So if you caught the Extra Life stream, you got a bit of a preview of this, or it's like the whole base and its final steps. If you guys tuned into Base Off over on my Twitch channel, I did do a few works in progress over there, which I hope to plan to do with other bases in the future over on my Twitch channel in the coming year if I find time to stream a little bit more. But yeah, so you caught a little bit of previews here, but yeah, this base is finally finished, and I'm excited about it, and yeah, we're going to give it a bit more lore and some concept here. So if you want to skip ahead to when the base tour starts, I'll put a timestamp down below for you guys to do so, because I'm going to go into a bit of a lore and concept-wise of how this base was created and stuff like that. So if that's not your bag and you'd rather like just get right into the base tour, go switch there, because I'm probably... Also, this is probably going to be a very long video because I am really excited about this base. So, yeah, so go ahead and go to the timestamp now, and for all you who are in for the long haul, let's get into the lore of this base. So, when I first made this base, I was always treating it like, oh, this is Achikah's vacation home, you know, and I started making it by... it expanded from a teleporter vignette to starting to become a full base, to where I had to have 2 separate bases here on the EU side, one for my teleporter and one for this base, which is a deco theme. I started thinking about what an Achikah vacation home would kind of look like. So I don't think I've ever gotten into the lore of Achikah, the character, my character in-game, very much in her bases, because some of her bases were the first shown on the channel, and I didn't really talk as much as I do, which is probably better for some of you who don't like to hear me orate. I'm not exactly you know, like, so I thought I'd get into it here. So I started thinking about her lore and where, like, she kind of came from and, like, how she was built up. So, before she was a sorceress of the arcane, Achikah was born and raised, actually, as a druid. So if you guys have seen me walking around on the US side, usually, like, in instances or seasonals, like queues, or in the open world, you'll probably see me not in my, my attire that I'm usually in. This is, like, my healer stance that I'm in when I do a lot of base tours. But you'll see my DPS stance, which is my witch marked Achikah, or my cursed Achikah from Justice League Dark Curse. Like, I kind of have it so it's like she's under the thrall of Hecate, like all the other sorceresses and sorcerers were during that DLC. Um, but she actually has antlers. And the reason is because when she was a druid, she actually had antlers. And when she turned away from attuning with nature and went directly for a more like occult kind of route with mystical powers, her antlers fell off. So that's kind of why she wears her cowl too. She actually has a couple of like circular indents or scars, if you will, from where her horns used to be. Kind of like Hellboy, but Hellboys are more like the stumps or whatever, you know. Hers are more like there's just nothing there. It's just kind of like a little crater. I think like Star Wars characters actually have something similar. I saw recently like Devorians, I think are what they're called. They have like these little like nodes on their head kind of. But yeah, so that's underneath her cowl, but in her witch cursed form, because she's enthralled by the powers of Hecate, she has regrown her antlers, and it's kind of like imbuing parts of both her occult side, you know, that she has like very much on the forefront, but also deep at her core she has that druid part. So it's like also grabbing from that kind of power source too into this like amalgamation of like a sorceress supreme under the primordial powers of Hecate, if you will. So there's a little bit of lore there. So if you will, I wanted to take a part of that mystical side of Achikah, of course, the arcane powers of magic that she has, but also I wanted to draw from the instinctual part of nature that she always kind of carries with her, even though she has kind of turned her back on that path. But also, I think it's very nostalgic, and it's also like a gateway back into her past. And nature is something that she very much enjoys. If you've seen a lot of her bases, there are a lot of vernal things mixed with sorcery things, and I definitely wanted to do that. So if when creating a getaway for her to just escape, like an escape place for her and a safe space, I thought I needed to really pull to her roots. In some cases, literally in the space, as you'll see. But yeah, so I infused her roots to draw you know, that kind of sense of security out of her and just like serenity, but also her intrigue and her draw to the occult too. So there's witchy, occulty things in here, and that's how we got to this space today. And that's honestly that's the whole kind of lore situation or what I came up with. They're also like very visual inspirations. I drew from the Baba Yaga imagery, lore, like the kind of like cryptid character. Like it's that house in the middle of the woods with the chicken legs, you know. I love those. I think they're so cool. But also Hobbit architecture, of course, too, played a big part in this, and from like Lord of the Rings, and then also, of course, Studio Ghibli films, specifically Howl's Moving Castle and Kiki's Delivery Service, which I think are just very aesthetically pleasing, and I love all the little like trinkets and background imagery that's just so pretty and very detailed, but also very serene and like comforting and cozy. And I thought I imbued that all into this woodland cottage that I have called Sagebrush Covenstead. So if you're still with me after all of that explanation, why don't we finally get into the base? So without further ado, please join me in checking out Achikah's safe place, her vacation home here in this vernal, overgrown forest in what I call Sagebrush Covenstead. Okay, so after all that, I'm already worn out, but I'm gonna do my best to describe what I did here with the forest. So of course, I wanted a forest that was both like mystically and overgrown, and but also just very vernal and lush and serene. So I of course I had to utilize some of the St. Patrick's Day furniture. I absolutely love the streams, and I've been wanting to use one for a while. The path isn't really a path, it's more overgrown with flowers and fireflies, but I wanted that kind of magically sparkle that you get with the firefly grass patches. And I also wanted to look like a pathless tread, because this house really, like a lot of Achikah's like architecture, like that I've kind of like put into her lore, the base doesn't appear unless you're welcome or it needs to find you, kind of thing. So like if you came here uninvited, you'd find probably just traps in a labyrinth of forest, and you would never really find the house. But since you guys are all invited to my Covenstead today, it is has shown itself. But like I said, also there are a few ill-fated omens for those like a keep away in case like those who are unwelcome are venturing into the woods kind of know. So there's lots of skulls and like rusticy things, a couple of traps. Well, not really traps, but just like kind of a little ominous, a little bit of ominous ambiance, if you will, is scattered around. So, okay, so the forest also has a cave system. We'll come across the first part of it here. It's like a mushroom cave for gathering mushrooms, but also a couple of magical creatures, I think, loom within its walls there. Again, another omen of what's to come in the cave. So if you are not a skilled spelunker, as well as someone who is okay with dealing with occult or magical mystical creatures, I would highly suggest not going into this kind of tunnel system. Even for the bounties of the mushrooms that rest within. um, so again, I have the stream, and it runs through here, through the woods, and I made a bridge to go over it with the log benches and the pier posts that I love this combo. I've used it in a couple bases. I just think it's so cool. Um, I think the pier um, pylons are really underappreciated. Like they're just I really enjoy them a lot. I just think they really help like accents like wooden fencing and stuff too. I just think they're so cool. um, but so if you follow the river, actually though, we have another cave system here. This one kind of is a waterfall runoff, so I would assume it kind of like dips down a bit actually right there, but also I gave it a bit of a glow, so we have like an iridescent mushroom kind of vibe there, a bit more hospitable than the other cavern, but also there are some spiky elements and a waterfall drop off that probably I don't think that's someplace you also want to visit, but I mean you might if you're a skilled spelunker and don't fear the descent. Then maybe you'd be fine with that. So okay, we've gone over the river and we're going through the woods to Achikah's cabin. We go on. Here it is. Welcome to Sagebrush Covenstead. This I love this turn here. I really wanted it to be super cinematic when you came into the Covenstead or the cottage itself. I used a lot of light aspects, like a lot of light furniture that produces light. Lots of clock tower windows are hidden behind the tree lines. Lots of enchanted skylines also are around, and things like that. As well as utilizing the hanging lanterns from Halloween. I really wanted this to feel like kind of an abandoned cabin, very overgrown, very like, somebody might not be here, but if somebody is here, I still wanted it to have this warm, cozy, like aesthetic to it too. So it's both off-putting but also welcoming. So that's why I used the hanging lanterns from Halloween, because they give this beautiful glow, especially in these windows here. I really love how that turned out. Like it really looks like it's somebody's home and like is living here, and it's just, especially with all the little fireflies and the butterflies moving around, it's both filled with life but also overgrown to where it looks like nobody lives here at all. So it's just I was really towing that balance of abandonment, but also like just lived in, lots of life, but also lots of like neglect at the same time, but the good kind of neglect where like nature's growing back in a very, nice way. um, so we see where the stream had split. We can see that this lake has formed, lots of butterflies, and again the moon overhead giving light to the forest below. And then, so we have one water feature, and we have another in the form of drinking water. We have the well over here. Just I feel like a cottage in the woods has to have a well. It seems like a must. We've already talked about the windows, but in front of it we have a small little garden here. Nothing has been planted because, like I said, it's a vacation home. I did have a couple pumpkins and plants here, but I ended up taking them out because I thought like it looked a little better just having like a kind of a very grown over plant bed here that hasn't been used in a while. Maybe if we get more spots in the future, I might fill this with some saplings or some pumpkins again or something like that. But for now, I think I like how it looks, just kind of like an abandoned like garden bed. um, to the right, we have the tool shed. We have the axe outside, of course, for cutting firewood, which we don't really need for the fireplaces for the most part. Which well, at least one of them. There are two fire. Ooh, wait, there's actually quite a few. The more I think about it, I think I put a lot of fireplaces in this place, but which, given it's very foresty and made of wood, I don't know how great that is. But in hindsight, but it's all magically like protected, so I'm sure it's fine. But yeah, for chopping wood, that's the axe is outside, and as you can see, we have our wood pile here. We have our workbench as well. I try not to make this look as menacing as it came off. I know like the devs thought that this looked kind of malevolent, but I promise I was just using it as like a cork board for tools. And also, if you're kind of in a forest that's been abandoned with a lot of weathering conditions and humidity and stuff, tools are bound to rust. So, this is just the workbench for repair. When things do get repaired, I have the stool there to sit on, and then I tried to repurpose a sewing machine as a lathe there for more woodworking, as well as a hammer. Compost pile. And of course, we have our spider friends who work as natural pest removers, for mosquitoes and flies, given we are by a lake bed. Yeah. So that's the tool shed, or the workshop, if you will. And then over here, if we get further into the entrance here for the base, we have a patio kind of situation, or a terrace. It's just like it does have a little bit of a roofing there, although it does give way to so much foliage. I think it probably would keep out rain, though, or I'd like to think it would. So we have a view of the river as well as the moon, so we can sit back and do some star charting or some stargazing here, of course. I am working on a lunar kind of base, like an academy, if you will, or something like that, or an observatory with some of the new mystical-y things over on the US side, so stay tuned for that. So I wanted to definitely put like a little homage to some astronomy things in this space, especially since the view was so nice. I figured it would be kind of perfect to aim the telescope up there at it. And over here, like I said, we have some gardening beds, so we also have some botany and sapling areas here. So we have some fertilizer or seed bags, some pots for plants, as well as some saplings who have yet to find their rooting to be replanted or repurposed elsewhere. And then we have some different taps for different kind of growth serums or potions or vitamins for the plants. Like a kind of like an archaic kind of like system too. I really like the pub taps, but I couldn't really like utilize them elsewhere. But I thought they looked really cool here as almost like this horticulture-y, like archaic kind of like watering system, like instead of using the hydroponic gardens, I thought it kind of looked like a nice little watering station. And then we finally get to the entrance of the base, which is one of my favorite parts of the base. I have a lot of favorite parts, if you haven't noticed by now, but this is one of them. This whole area here was the start of the base, pretty much, specifically the windows with the lights in them, but also this entryway, so it has like a special place in my heart. I love the color combinations. If you guys can't tell by now, I absolutely love yellows, especially against like very muted or neutral colors, and then add in like a dark forest green or like a bright like cerulean blue. I just think it's so pretty. And that's kind of what I went with this. So I actually, like I had some more brighter plants in the planter boxes. Like I wanted to make it look like a bunch of like mystical-y flowers and like magical things here. So I had some Venus flytraps, and I had some coral planters actually from the summer event, but they were just really loud colorfully in comparison to everything around here. And I really wanted the lamps to be the focal point for like color, you know what I mean? As well as I really wanted the door to have that enchantment feel, like, because while the lanterns are very bright and like shiny and everything, that blue glow from the door I really didn't want to take away from that. I wanted it to be very, like that's the focal point. With the rest of the lighting, like kind of giving that warm feel, welcoming feel, like I said, like the lights did in the windows too. So that's kind of the vibe that I was going for here. So yeah, that's what I thought about for the entryway. And of course I love the fey trees. I think they're so cool. um I think it worked out really well too. I had just regular trees here, and then when the fey trees came out, I freaked out and I was like, yes, they have to go here. It's just it worked really well. So I think I love this entryway. So okay, so that is the forest area of the base. Why don't we get into the actual cabin itself? So we have to reach this magical doorway here by smashing it to pieces. um, and first we have our little foyer. So as I said before, Achikah likes to go, foraging for potion and cooking ingredients within the forest. So she has her foraging basket here, as well as an armoire for jackets in case it's colder out, or it's raining or whatever. And also a bench to take your shoes off. Not everybody has consecrated, protected, warded heels of magical infusement as I do. So, if you're out in the forest spelunking, or, even out in the river or whatever, and you track mud in, I don't want them on my nice rugs that I have maintained for centuries, so you can sit here and, take a load off, but also take your shoes off. Because while this house does have a ton of nature within it, I do not want muddy footprints on my carpeting. Okay, so that's the foyer area. Oh, and then the tarot card. This is one of my favorite. Like, I think I've mentioned this in a few videos. I love the Lovers tarot card. The artwork is just one of my favorites. Hawkgirl is one of my favorite DC characters, and I feel like this is the most tarot cardy out of all of the metal framed cards. Besides the Lamort card, I feel like that kind of has a bit of a tarot-y vibe to it, but this one just really felt like a super, like, magical tarot card. I'm still hoping we get Ivy one day, because I've seen the Ivy card on the Batman Who Laughs ally, and I very much want that too. But I do know that most of the time, furniture sets that are already out are rarely ever revisited, so maybe one day, but maybe not. Because I feel like the Ivy card would fit in so well here, because as you can see, the nature aspect of the base has spilled over into the actual cabin. So one of my big things with this base is I really wanted the man-made aspect, like the architecture of the cabin, to work with nature rather than against it. So all the walls I very much wanted to look like very natural rather than like just stark, like, carved away wood. I wanted lots of root systems, as if like it's being overgrown from the ceiling downward, or even from the floor up in some circumstances. So you'll see a lot of like vine walls and stuff. If I had more spots, I definitely would have more rooting. I'd also have the entire probably roof covered in canopies or wooden trellises, or something of that extent where it looks like definitely things are growing in the ceiling. You'll see that the ceiling's a bit lacking in that kind of regard in a lot of places, as opposed to other places in the base. But hopefully if we get a spot increase, I could do that. But yeah, the thing that actually really super inspired this, besides just the whole druid and Achikah's druid and magical side, was also seeing these dividers that came out, the blooming or flowering, I think it's called the flowering dividers from Springtime. I thought they were so cool, and I was like, I have to find a base to use these in, and this was the perfect opportunity. So I tried my best to clip as many flowers and roots through to other pieces of furniture. As you can see, they're kind of like coming through the pub divider here that's being used. The paintings actually fit over them perfectly because they shoot out from the wall so much, so they're actually flush with the wall, which I think is so cool. But yeah, so this base is just fully living and breathing, just as its residents are, is kind of the vibe that I wanted to give off. So we have our main hall here that has all of our rooms attached to it. I think there are 5 rooms on the bottom in total, which is crazy because that's a lot of rooms for a small base, but I did what I could. So again, there's lots of occulty artifacts. You guys know I love the prehistoric penguin statue. I love the Atlantean lamps as well, and of course they fit the color motif with those bright yellows against the neutral wooden tones as well as the vernal stuff. So worked out well. And again, lots of relics too. Atop these pub bar tops that I also love. If you can't tell, I really love just any wooden textured items in this game for the most part. So yeah, so this is kind of just an entryway, and you kind of get that magically feel as well as the overgrown feel as well. So let's go into our first room, which is the storage room that we have here, which, as you guys know, I love storage. This is pretty tame as far as my storages go, but there are 2 aspects in this room that I absolutely love, one of which are the roots holding up the staircase, which is another early concept that I wanted to really utilize in this base. Once I saw that the ivy roots from Metal 1, I think they're from, I really, like, I saw that they could fit under the staircase and mesh up to the staircase, almost, like, just butt up to it perfectly for its clipping. I was like, I have to use this, and I really love how it just looks like the roots are holding up these stairs to give you the 2nd floor. I thought that was just, like, really, really cool. And the second aspect of this base is a little hidden. You probably can't see it right now, or her right now. But if we go over here, we can see Lulu. Look at Lulu. Hi, Lulu. Lulu is my guardian here at Sagebrush Covenstead. She keeps the fort down when I am not at home. For now, I have crated her, though. She's in her crate. She doesn't mind. She kind of likes the serenity, but I crate her when visitors are over, because, I don't want my visitors to be thrown into the void, as Lulu tends to do. Despite being very friendly and very, very loving, she also will be very protective. As the best, house protectors are. So she's in her kennel for now that serves below the staircase. I clipped one of those vampire coffins from Halloween in with some of the Justice League Dark furniture, and specifically the caged tentacle, cages, to make it look like there was a Cthulhu-esque, like, eldritch creature below the stairs. Cthulhu, aka Lulu. So I love that. That's one of my little Easter eggs that I have in here. So, alright, so from the storage room, we are going to the sitting area, which will reach from this side, because you get the nice little, the red carpet treatment, so to speak. So this is just the sitting area for visiting, or for spirit visitation, actually, since we have a spirit table here with lots of tarot cards. So if you want your future read, or to invoke any spirits from beyond the grave, you could do so in here. I utilize the Wonder Dog mat clip with the luxurious rugs, which I actually found from Rill. I think it was the Lex Luthor base, and also Mugshot Cafe, 2 of Rill's bases. The Lex Luthor office, I think, was a base-off entry that he had. But I absolutely love these Shazam emblems. They have that wonderful, archaic, vibe to them, that magically vibe, and I feel like they kind of tie the room together with the bright golds to go with the candles, as well as the glow of the artifacts that we have in the corner. So I have a few artifacts behind some glass. Some of my favorites. Well, actually, to be fair, the bull artifact is probably my favorite, given, as you guys can tell, I very much love yellow. But the bull artifact would not fit within the art display cases, so I chose the chalice and the skull. A fireplace, too, and a worn piano, which I think this is, as much as I love being the piano bandit, I think the worn piano is my favorite piano in the game. It's just, I love the color of it, and also looks like it would be playing by itself, which I think fits in perfectly with the vibe of a mystical cottage in the middle of a enchanted wood. Okay, so that was the living room or sitting area. There are three more rooms, but you know what? I think let's go upstairs first. So, as we ascend the stairs, you can see again more overgrown uh, spots here, with also some paintings, which will come into play later, are still on the wall. This was what took the base so long for some reason. Last Halloween, I only bought three Gothic windows, and I could not find a fourth one on the EU marketplace for the entirety of the year. So that's kind of what took so long. So I was waiting for one piece of furniture for the space to be done, and that's why it got finished in October. But it was very much worth it. I really wanted these windows because they bring a lot of light, especially to a very dark environment. Because if you do like a vernal environment, things tend to get really shadowy from how the deco aesthetic, like if you layer a bunch of items on top of one another, the shadows progress like darker and darker. So I really wanted some bright windows here, and I got them with the Gothic windows. So and then as you can see, we have our upper floor, which, as you guys know, I love to let I didn't want to draw the dividers up here. I really wanted the aesthetic to breathe, so it had felt very open, despite having like all these dark shadows, as I talked about earlier, from most like vernal builds. And I thought a good way to do that would just be to use mysterious arches and then create my own like lattice, what is it called, like a railing, with the ivy, the clusters from spring, as well as some themyscira and empty weapon racks, which we'll see once we get into it. So that's what's forming the walls to our upstairs area, which is our kitchen, our potion making area, and our dining room with an adjoining bar. But of course. So our first area here, this is the one that was really heavily inspired by like Ghibli films. I love Howl's Moving Castle and all the little like trinkets that are on the wall and how homey it looks, despite being like this big magical estate, like it still has its very cozy and intimate settings, and I very much wanted to do that here. One of the ovens, actually, for the kitchen, I wanted one of those bread ovens from Kiki's Delivery Service, like when the grandma and Kiki are making the casserole for her granddaughter. I very much wanted one of those very old, like, iron, built-in bread oven kind of things, and I thought the furnace with the door really looked like it had that. So I built that up, and then I built, of course, a hearth for just regular cooking or potion uses, and then the rest of the kitchen and potion area kind of followed. So over here, we have this is our prep station. Lots of magical goodies and food goodies and mortars and pestles, books, recipes, magical items, weights, jars of both, I'm sure, magical things as well as spice things and food things. Not to be mistaken one or another with because that could have some very unwanted consequences. I also made one of my favorite things on this table is I made a magical Lazy Susan. I used one of the Art Deco bar tables with one of the mystical nightstands, and so I like to pretend that it's like floating and like you can just like kind of easily spin it. With this like kind of anti-gravity magic like kind of hex that's placed on it. So it has a bunch of bowls and herbs on it. And of course we have to have the dragon egg. Which I don't even think is for cooking. I just think Achikah probably like takes it in and out of the oven. Like it's incubating very slowly, as dragon eggs tend to need to be. So yeah, and again, lots of ivy overgrowing everything. Here we have our pantry area, which again, storage is definitely my thing. So there's lots of barrels and flasks and all kinds of like jarred items, both for potion making and cooking, as I said before. I really wanted to utilize one of these shelves. I saw this in Batman DC's Doctor Strange base. I'll link it up above. But I saw that these sconces in the haunted wall lights were being used as like magical artifacts and like a regular bookcase shelving, and I love that idea because they really do look like magical potion ingredients just in the wings waiting to be used. I thought that was cool. And then, since I loved my frying pan so much from Alchemy Casa, I was very tempted to do it again here, but I just left that as a plate. So I wanted to have some cooking stove. So I love how the cauldrons fit into with this shelf. I masked the bottom embers with like a grain bag or a bag of grains or rice that are down there. But I love how they look like little almost like Dutch ovens or shallow like cast iron cooking pots. I thought that looked really really cool. Must have the honey as well as some holly or holy down there, some jars as well, and some fresh herbs that are below the cabinet area. Here is where all the potion books as well as cookbooks rest. I had to have like a little sitting area to plan out a recipe or plan out a potion ahead of time, or to get some references if I needed them. And over here we have the alchemy station where the potions are made, at least the ones here on the EU side. It's not as grandiose as alchemy casas, but again, this is a cottage in the woods, not a mystical manor atop a mountain range. So, a more meek but also very powerful setup. Lots of different spices and jars, and I really love the overgrown tables and wanted to utilize them here as well. And lots of the Themysciran lights too, because I just felt they went nice with the color scheme. Alright, so next we're going to go into our dining room. Again, we have some planter boxes here for some alchemy ingredients or potion ingredients. Hecate's overlooking the whole thing. And in the corner, we have our bar set up because, Achikah does like to host, occasionally. And when people do arrive, I like to make sure that they're in good spirits with good spirits, you know? So we have our undead bartender here who is serving up the best libations here in the Sagebrush Covenstead. And then we have our dining room, which I finally got to use the inverted furniture for, and I absolutely love it. Oh man. So at first I had the what is it, the black dining table and chairs, one of like the really basic ones, because I wanted to save on spots. And it's one whole piece, it's because this is like six whole pieces up on the ceiling. So I wanted to save on that, but getting around this corner and like having the table centered in the room it was really cumbersome, and I was always like bumping into it, and it was hard to like get around, and it felt really like claustrophobic. And like I said, I very much like my bases to breathe, even though they can be very like tight knit or like intimate at times. But I didn't want it to be like so much so to where it was like, oh, this is a pain to get around. And I really wanted to use the magical inverted furniture in some way, and so I decided to make a glyphed, like, levitation aspect so that you can float to the ceiling for your dinner. And I utilized the Atlantean ceiling lamp to kind of echo the table that was down in the hallway that you guys saw earlier. And of course, floating candles because levitation and all that good stuff, so... I just think it turned out really cool. The only thing I would change is if I was thinking of adding a sigil to the here as well, but since I had them over here, I didn't want to like overuse them. If I had one of these glyphs on the ceiling, that would be awesome, but I think it looks pretty okay for that. Or a ceiling rug. That would be cool too. Maybe sometime in the future. So over here, as I mentioned before, we have some sigils that are protecting the Achikah Nexus, as I like to call it. I've gone back through in a lot of my bases, like Arcane Athenium, what is it, Back Alley Bewitchery, and Alchemy Casa, and all my teleporter doors that I have changed to the mystical doorways because I think they're so cool. So it's kind of like it's linking all of my bases together. If I had enough spots, my teleporter would likely be behind this and I would be utilizing it, but there are no amenities in here because I used up every single spot for decor. So until we get a spot increase, it'll just stay as a pseudo teleporter, like a you know, a canonical teleporter, if you will, but not an actually functional one. um, okay, so I think that's the upstairs done. Let's head back downstairs so you can see more paintings and as well as the Gothic windows echoed on the other side. But over here you can see I really wanted kind of like a church window or like an apex window, almost like if it was at the like crux of the ceiling of this cabin, you know, almost like it was at an A-frame. And I accented it with the blood moon window, which you'll see will also have some of that in the library area that we are going to come up into next. But I thought like it kind of echoed the same lighting as the Gothic window a little bit, so I think it's just a nice little view of everything. And as you can see, we enter back into our main hallway, and we are at the foot of our library. Dun 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 dun. Oh man, I mean, you guys know I had to include a library. If you've seen any of my bases, most of them all have libraries of some sort or books in it in some way. And this one is definitely no different. It's a bit more quaint than Alchemy Casas or even Bacalao Bewitcheries, but it's or Arcane Atheniums, but it's again small cottage, so small library, but still very mighty and powerful, as you could tell with the glyphs, as well as I mean we have a book that's emanating these bright red rays of power. So, oh man, I think I love this room. It's so cool. One of the devs when they were touring my base said that this chair looked like it was somebody was going to give you a quest. This is the chair of someone who was going to give you a quest, which honestly, very true. I think that's the best definition for this room is definitely a quest bearer's sweet sort of vibe to it. And as you can see, I mentioned earlier how the fire is eternally lit. This fire has a demon trapped in it. One that was being malevolent and haunting innocent people. So we have repurposed their infernal energies of torment and used it for the fireplace. As any, you know, streetwise witch would. So it burns eternally, and you can see, like, the fangs kind of, like, peering out. Just lots of books, again, more vernal stuff. And here's one part of the base that I really like that I didn't mention in the sitting area. So, as you guys know, from the top of the staircase, you can usually see over, like, into the other area, like, where you go down to the basement. Since I had to close off the basement to save on spots for this build, I didn't really want that side to be seen. And I didn't have any, like, barriers that were high enough. And since this is a vernal base, I was like, well, why don't I just use some of the full oak trees to kind of be a natural barrier to kind of block off that area. And ideally, if I had more spots, again, I mentioned it for the ceiling area, they would bleed into the canopy and it'd kind of be like an infusing of this like root system that's taken place over the entirety of the cabin for its roofing area. But until then, the trees just serve as like a barrier to block out that staircase area that's over there. But also, I just think they really add to the vine work and the living aspect of the base, and I think it's really nice. Okay, we're on to our last two rooms. I know I've probably talked way too much in this base, but you know, that's how it tends to go. And here we have our art studio. Oh, I love it so much. You guys know I love when you guys utilize under the stair kind of things, and of course I had to do so in this space. So I chose some of my favorite pieces of artwork that are furniture, the Bombshell Batwoman poster, the Lover's Card, and the Poison Ivy painting. I love it so much. It's just, I love the colors, and I feel like the colors work well with these. Like, all these have this really washed out yellow color, as well as the wooden floor mat that I just thought was just really great color interaction. I just thought it looked really nice together. But on top of that, like, Ivy wearing, like, mushroom armor is just, like, excellent. And to hear like Glitter say the same thing in the dev tour like made me very happy, because I also think this is very epic and just so rad. It's probably one of my favorite paintings like in the game. I love it. But so yeah, it's just a mini art studio. We got some statuary, lots of paintings. some messy paint cans in the corner, and from all the studios that I've owned, if you guys know, I'm an oil painter in real life, and this is definitely the most clean I have ever had a studio, probably. So I cherish the amount of order that is in here, even with all the vines and woodland things creeping in and being overgrown. So, um, and also over here we have some paintings that have yet to be hung up or that are in need of touch up or, just possibly drying. I don't think I'd probably stack them like that though if they were drying. I think they're more like touch up or things to be added that are finished and ready to be hung. Or shipped off to other, since we have the Achikah Nexus, they can go to other of Achikah's properties throughout the game. But I really wanted to have them like leaning up against the staircase as if it's like, these, I don't know, I wanted to make it feel more lived in and kind of like realistic and believable and in that kind of regard, because I know as somebody who has had an art studio before, like this tends to happen quite a lot with larger paintings. As much as you should not lean them against one another. It's not good for the canvas, but sometimes space is an issue and it tends to happen. So and finally we are going to enter the bedroom area. Ooh. This is actually very dark. Lots of the shadows from above, as you can see, are here because the potion brewing area, as well as the rugs and the glyphs, which you can see kind of bleeding through with the shadows, kind of like really piled up for this room to kind of have this darkened exterior. I tried to lighten it up with the mansion candles over here and the hanging lamps to no avail, but I still think it looks like pretty nice. You can still make out what's here. So of course we have the wardrobe area from the Justice League Dark Curse stuff. These are so cool. Oh man, I'm so happy we finally got wardrobes and closets and shoe cupboards. Finally, that was such a great addition. Had to utilize some of them here, of course. A desk to do again, like just some reflecting and some note keeping, as well as some, maybe some sketches or some. Oh no, my alarm's going off. Look at that. I'm so sorry. I thought I silenced my phone. But yeah, so just some note keeping, and also possibly a magical alarm clock, if you will. So it was super immersive. um, but yeah, no. So this is the sitting area with books and stuff, and then we have the bed, which is probably one of my favorite areas here. We'll yeah, you just like kind of rest and chill out, but also I combined a few of my favorite beds here. Oh, no, not point. I want to lay down. Ah. Poof. Ah, very nice. I love the mystical tree bed, and I love the occult bed. I think both of them are very cool. And then I clipped in the Necron throne for just an added, like, glowy skull to the mix, and of course the ancient Atlantean sigil. And I had to pick the tarnished one, because, like I said, everything here is, like, pretty overgrown. Top it all off with a cursed dollhouse from the House of Mystery, which has its flickering lights in here, and some more books to end the base tour. And I think that is it for Sagebrush Covenstead. Again, I probably talked way too much through this, to the point of where my alarm went off. That tells me it's my actually it's my remember to upload alarm on my phone. So so I'm kind of like cutting this pretty close, but I wanted to get this out as soon as possible because Extra Life did hit like this weekend, and I wanted to share this finally with you guys. Like I said, this is like one of my favorite bases. I don't know. Like, and again, I don't know if you like this format with me talking too much about my base. I tend to like generalize sometimes. I know my base tours are longer than the usual base tours, so if this stuff was kind of interesting, let me know in the comments. If you guys want me to be quiet and just kind of streamline more, I understand that too, so let me know. But hopefully it gave you an insight to like how I think about bases, how I build, and also just some insight into this space in general, because I really, really enjoy this a lot. It's nowhere near, like, actually finished. I would love to do, like I said, something with the ceiling. I'd like so many more roots, both on the floor and on the ceiling. Um, but like for 700 spots, I'm pretty happy with where I got with the detail and just how immersive everything is. And I really think it paints a really nice picture of the duality that rests inside this character that I've created here on the game after all these years. So yeah, that is Sagebrush Covenstead. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for your scheduled Wednesday and Saturday uploads. I have a couple more bases that I have finished. It's just time is always an issue, and I when I do sit down to film or play the game, I either need to do seasonal or messaging you guys about your bases or filming your guys' bases, so it tends to kind of get like pushed aside because I'd much rather tour your guys' bases than my own, and I realize I need to tour my own because that at some point. So yeah, so I'm glad that this one worked out. Just by the buzzer actually with that alarm. So, but I did manage to squeeze it in. So yeah, stay tuned for more bases from me. I think I have two. One is going to be later in the year, but the other one I'll see when I can squeeze it in next for in the schedule. So we'll see how it goes. So hopefully all that I hope you guys. Yeah, I mean, I think that's about it. I definitely need to rest my voice after talking for that long. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you'd enjoyed. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care, everybody.